"How I love this place," said Layla, shaking off the drops from the just-washed cup. She stood at the sink, and outside the window, the dawn gloom of Murfreesboro, Tennessee began. The street outside the window seemed quiet and peaceful. "Me too," Logan answered, yawning and walking into the kitchen. He was wearing sweatpants and a simple white t-shirt. He casually smoothed his unruly hair, then leaned down to kiss Layla on the temple. "Everything in this house is as we dreamed." They got married 7 years ago in their early 20s. Both were energetic, slightly naive, full of enthusiasm. Logan had just received a position as a deputy sheriff at the local police station, and by that time Layla had completed courses in cosmetologists and makeup artists. The house they bought a couple of years ago was not too big, but spacious for a young couple. Elegant, brick outside, with a neat front garden and flower beds, which delighted Layla. "You know," Logan continued, opening the refrigerator, "of course, at work I sometimes see complete chaos in families, and it's always so cozy here. You are my gold." Layla looked away, slightly embarrassed. Over the past couple of months, strange thoughts have increasingly visited her. Family life began to feel stable, but monotonous. Sometimes it made me happy, sometimes it irritated me. She understood that she loved Logan, that he was a good husband. But from time to time, something new and irresistible flared up inside her, as if she wanted to break free, try something else. However, she never even admitted to herself what that something else was. "Why are you silent?" Logan asked, opening a bottle of water. Layla perked up and smiled. "No, everything is fine. I was just thinking about today. I have a client's appointment for the morning. She is going to a friend's wedding. I want to look like a million." Logan grinned. "She's in good hands. You are the best cosmetologist in the city. At least, that's what I tell everyone." Layla clasped her hands mockingly. "Seriously, I hope you're not exaggerating." "Not at all. Otherwise, I wouldn't advertise so much to you." She smiled at him and felt a slight warmth in her chest. Logan sometimes seemed too right, but at the same time, he was always there, reliable, ready to protect. "Am I sincerely so happy with our life? Or did you just get used to it?" A thought flashed through her head. Their little son, 5-year-old nimble colt, ran into the kitchen, laughing and shouting, "Mom, Dad, I want cereal." He hugged them both, hugging their legs. In this serene morning, in fact, there was no hint that in just a couple of months their usual life would go upside down. On the same day, Logan was going to work. He drove his official Ford, and when he had a free half hour, he tried to look home. But this morning was going to be a hectic one. The new county sheriff, Gerald Marlowe, had a meeting planned. Logan entered the station and exchanged a few words with Jim, a senior officer, a friend from his days as a student. "Listen, is Marlowe again inflating another important topic?" Logan grinned, taking off his cap. "Looks like it," Jim chuckled. "They say there will be a talk about crime prevention and all sorts of bureaucratic troubles." "Okay," Logan sighed, "let's go listen." The meeting lasted about 40 minutes. Marlowe drew out his words, talked about reports and the need for strict discipline. Logan secretly corresponded with Layla, who sent him a photo of her new job. She had just finished a client's makeup and was pleased with the result. "Beautiful," Layla coquettishly added in the message. Logan responded briefly, "You're better." When it was finally over, Logan, leaving the office, almost collided with Nancy, an intern at the sheriff's office. Nancy was a 22-year-old girl, brightly made up, in a neat pantsuit, but her manner of behavior always seemed too frivolous to Logan. "Oh, sorry," she smiled. "Didn't notice you." "It's okay." "How's work?" he asked dryly. "Yes, okay, I'm drowning in papers," Nancy sighed dramatically. "Maybe someday we'll get out somewhere, otherwise I'm completely soured in this city." Logan raised an eyebrow and looked at her in surprise. "To be honest, I rarely go out." "Yes, and I have a family." "Oh, okay, after all, no one forbids having a friendly chat." She smiled charmingly. He remained silent, nodded to her, and headed towards the exit. Jim was already waiting for him in the corridor. "Watch out, buddy," This girl is looking for some adventure. I noticed, Logan replied, but I'm fine with my head. I love my wife. Jim poked him on the shoulder mockingly. Then it's okay. Thus began a normal working day for Logan. Layla closed the salon door around lunchtime. Her client was late, then complained about her fiancé for a long time, so Layla had to stay late. When she finally emerged onto the street, she saw an unfamiliar man near her car. He stood with his elbows on the hood of a gray Dodge and apparently was waiting for someone. Coming closer, Layla began to open her purse to take out the keys and glanced briefly at the stranger. He also looked at her intently. Tall, with expressive eyes, short-cropped dark hair, muscular arms. He looks a little older than her, maybe under 40, but he looked well-groomed and confident, dressed in expensive jeans and a leather jacket. "Are you looking for me?" Layla asked with polite interest. "Sorry," the stranger looked away. "I just caught my eye. There's something so unusual about you." Layla frowned. "Sounds funny, but if you are a client, then the salon is behind me. It's lunchtime now, though. I'm not a client. My name is Adam. I'm waiting for a friend. He's nearby in a lawyer's office. I saw you, and for some reason, he seemed to stop mid-sentence. And," she asked again, "and I decided to say hello. Stupid, right?" He grinned and came closer. "Sorry if I scared you." Layla didn't feel any particular fear, rather surprise. She was about to answer sharply, but his voice sounded quite soft. There was a confidence in it that was both attractive and slightly annoying. "I'm not scared," she finally answered, "but I have to go. My son is in kindergarten, so I need to pick him up in time." "Understand," Adam nodded. Once again sorry for the intrusion. He walked away and Layla got into the car. When she left, he still looked after her. And this was that first signal, that new feeling that she was afraid of, but at the same time unconsciously sought. Since that day, Layla had glimpsed Adam a couple of times without mentioning him to Logan. Her thoughts were hazy. Why was she even thinking about a stranger? Maybe this is something like a game of imagination. Because this happens, someone accidentally appears in your life, you fantasize for a couple of moments and forget. Meanwhile, life went on as usual. Colt went to the garden, Logan worked. Soon a holiday fell Independence Day, and a parade was held in the streets. Logan, along with the police, ensured order, and this was a kind of calling for him. He was proud of the service, although sometimes he complained about the routine. Layla stood on the side of the road with Colt among the crowd, watching the veterans march and decorated floats pass. Suddenly, she saw a familiar face. Adam was standing just a few steps away, a little to the side. As if sensing her gaze, he turned around. Their eyes met. Layla turned cold in surprise, but Adam only smiled slightly and nodded, not coming closer. Colt tugged at her hand. "Mom, look, confetti." She turned to her son, helped him catch the flying candies, and when a moment later she looked again in Adam's direction, he was no longer there. "It seemed to me or not." Layla muttered. She suddenly felt uneasy. That evening, as the family gathered in the living room, eating pizza and watching fireworks outside the window, Logan noticed that Layla seemed absent. "Hey, honey, what's on your mind?" he asked, giving Colt another slice of pizza. "Yes, I'm tired." "Are you stressed out from work?" "A little." She caught his attentive gaze. Logan has always been known for noticing changes in the mood of his family. But now, apparently, he decided not to press questions. He changed the topic to something else, and Layla mentally thanked him for that. The night passed restlessly. Layla dreamed of running down a long corridor, at the end of which Logan stood, holding out his hands to her. But she runs in the opposite direction, where something unknown awaits her. Waking up in the morning, she whispered to herself, "It's just a dream." But a gnawing feeling of guilt and a strange longing remained in my heart. A week later, Layla received an order to go to a private event and do makeup for the bride. The wedding took place in an elite suburban club. Layla had known these clients for a long time, a wealthy family who spared no expense on their appearance. Having finished her work, She began to collect her tools, and through the window, she noticed a familiar figure passing by the pool. It was Adam. He talked with the bride and her girlfriends, joked confidently, and the girls laughed. Layla almost froze in place, trying not to attract attention. But then Adam turned around and noticed her. He said something to the girls with an apologetic gesture and walked towards Layla. She hissed to herself, "Damn, how embarrassing." "You again," Adam spoke as he entered the room. "I told you it's a small town." "Yeah," Layla grinned, collecting her brushes in a case. "I think you're stalking me." This would be a great excuse to start a conversation. He smiled, looking into her eyes. "How's life?" "Everything is fine," she replied, deliberately making a cold tone. "Family, work. I see you have a lot of friends." "Quite a lot. I'm new here, but my circle of friends is expanding quickly." "And what do you do?" Layla asked, feeling interest flaring up inside. "I manage a chain of bars and nightclubs," answered Adam. "I have 2 locations here and a couple more in other states." "Well, that's not bad." "Fine. I often appear at various social events. So today I was invited as a good friend, and I am not in debt. My company will hold an after-party here." He looked around the workroom and nodded slightly. "And you are already finished, right?" "Yes, I'll leave now." "In that case, maybe you could stay for 10 minutes. Skip the cocktail. I would like to offer you something." Layla suddenly felt strangely excited. She understood that any other husband who made such an offer would have received a polite refusal. But there was something attractive about Adam. She still gathered her resolve to answer briefly and clearly, "No, thank you." However, she said something else. "What's your idea?" "I recently opened a new lounge bar in the center. I need a person who understands external beauty and presentation, but not just as a model, but as a stylist and makeup artist. I constantly organize musical evenings and shows there. I'm looking for someone to lead the image of promo models, artists. What do I have to do with it?" Layla had already hidden her brushes in her suitcase, but her hand was shaking with curiosity. "You see, I watched you at work today. You know how to handle faces and understand how to make an image bright, and you look amazing yourself, my compliment." "Thank you," she breathed. It was unexpectedly pleasant. "But I have a salon, clients. Can be combined. I offer a flexible schedule. The pay will be excellent. If you want, we can talk in more detail later." Layla bit her lip. Not to say that she didn't need money, a mortgage for a house, expenses for a child, and she herself doesn't mind earning more. But this will dramatically take her out of her comfortable routine and give rise to misunderstanding on Logan's part. "I don't say yes," said Layla, "but I don't say no either." "Wonderful," Adam smiled. "Here is my business card. Call anytime." He held out a black card with gold lettering. It read, "Adam Glaser, owner of Silver Key Entertainment." "Let's see," she said quietly and left. In the car, as she drove back to town, her heart was pounding. That evening, Layla sat at her laptop in the living room, mindlessly scrolling through social media. Colt was already asleep. Logan had not yet returned from his shift. Photos of friends relaxing in bars and nightclubs caught her eye. She involuntarily remembered Adam and his proposal. "Maybe I'm exaggerating too much." I thought out loud, "It's just a job." But somewhere deep in her soul, she realized that it was not limited to work. She was flattered by this interest in her person, his compliments, and the bewitching confidence emanating from him, as if he could afford everything. But she couldn't. There was the sound of a car in the driveway. "Logan is back." Layla sighed and pushed her laptop away. The front door opened. "Lael, are you still awake?" Logan's quiet voice sounded. "No. I decided to wait for you." He walked into the living room and sat down next to her. He smelled of deodorant and the street, and he looked tired. "Difficult shift?" Layla asked. "A little. We had a chase there after a drunk driver and had to block the road. And another gang of petty thieves dispersed. Nothing serious, I hope." "No, just running around." Logan ran his hand over his face. "By the way, how are you? You look thoughtful." Everything is fine, she shrugged. Today I went on a trip to a wedding. Everything went well. Super Logan smiled and ran his hand over her shoulder. Maybe we can go somewhere together tomorrow? I got rid of my clothes for the evening. Great idea, Layla smiled slightly. Let's take Colt to the park. He's been asking for a long time. Agreed. Logan pressed himself against her, wanted to kiss her, but noticed that Layla had somehow frozen. He removed his hand. Is something wrong? Sorry, I'm tired, she lied. I really don't have the strength. Everything is fine, he answered with a soft smile. She involuntarily felt a pang of conscience. Logan showed love, and it seemed to her that her mind was still somewhere outside, somewhere next to an alien world that promised something exciting and forbidden. When they went to bed, Logan gently hugged her. Layla leaned against his chest. Her heart was pounding, but she convinced herself that everything would remain the same as before. She didn't do anything wrong. The next day, she and Colt actually went out to the park. Logan carried his son on his shoulders, making funny faces while Layla smiled at them. Those around them, seeing them, were mentally touched. This is an example of a happy family. On the swing, Colt, laughing cheerfully, asked, "Mom, shall we go and buy some ice cream later?" "Necessarily," she answered. "And me?" Logan pretended to be a child. "And to you," Layla smiled. They grabbed ice cream from a street kiosk and sat on a bench under a tree, watching people and companies running past. Logan was automatically checking his phone for incoming messages, and Layla suddenly noticed a ring of scratches on his wrist. "Are you hurt?" "Ah, nothing." Logan was embarrassed. This is when a hooligan was detained. He jerked, and I got caught on the fence. She frowned. "Logan, be careful. I'm worried." "Don't worry. Everything is under control." He hugged her shoulders. There was affection in his voice. It would seem that everything is perfect. But a thought popped into Layla's head. Adam. She herself was surprised that right now, at a time when her husband and son were so close, maybe she has become a monster. That evening, while Logan was reading his son a bedtime story, Layla went into the bathroom and, sitting on the edge of the bathtub, took Adam's business card out of her wallet. Her gaze involuntarily lingered on the golden letters. "Call me any time," sounded in my ears. She wasn't going to call, she wasn't going to know. But her hand itself reached out to the phone. "Just ask for details of the offer. Nothing more," she justified herself. My heart was pounding as the beeps continued. A few seconds later, Adam's voice, slightly hoarse, answered. "Yes, Layla? Glad you called." "Good evening," she began, trying to speak evenly. I thought about your proposal. Maybe we can meet and discuss the details." "With pleasure," answered Adam. "When is it convenient for you?" "The day after tomorrow. I'm free during the day," she suddenly said, realizing that it was too late to retreat. "Great. Come to my new bar, Imperium, in the center, say, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It will be quiet there." "Fine," she said in a whisper and pressed end. Her heart was pounding as if she had committed a crime. "I'm just going to discuss work," she repeated to herself. It was at that moment that Logan knocked on the bathroom door. "Are you okay, Layla? How long are you there?" "Just a second, I'm already leaving." She hid the card and turned on the water to make her answer sound natural, and she went to her husband with a smile, which she herself did not notice, how insecure she looked. The day before the meeting, Layla was wondering what lied to Logan. Tell the truth that she wants to sign a contract to work for a large company. Yes, it seems harmless, but she was afraid of questions, meticulous questioning. In the end, all this may seem strange to the husband, especially if he suddenly finds out who exactly offered the job. "Well, now it's time," Layla muttered, looking at her reflection in the mirror. "That means I'll lie. First time, one time." The next day, during breakfast, she said matter-of-factly, "Logan, I'll have to leave after lunch. One client asked for an urgent consultation. I'll have to drop by her place for a couple of hours." Logan, fumbling with his phone, answered without much interest. Of course, not a question. Colt was already in kindergarten, So Layla was free. She understood what she was doing, but on the other hand, her brain assured her, nothing like that. It's just extra work. Is this bad? When she pulled up to the Imperium, the clock on the dashboard read 2:55 p.m. The bar looked respectable. Dark glass doors, an elegant sign. It was dim inside, soft light from lamps, designer chairs upholstered in velvet, absent customers. It was truly quiet in the middle of the day. Adam met her at the counter and smiled. Glad you came. I don't know what I'm doing, Layla answered, trying to add irony to her voice. Please, he invited her to sit in a comfortable chair. The bartender helpfully prepared them light cocktails without alcohol. Adam leaned back in his chair, looking at her carefully. Let's get down to business. I want you to become part of my team. For starters, a stylist and makeup artist in my bar. Perhaps over time we will expand cooperation. Maybe you will lead an entire direction. This will give you the opportunity to earn good money and demonstrate your talent more. Why do you need me? Layla asked warily, taking a sip of the cocktail in which notes of ginger were clearly felt. Well, you are a master. But not only. Adam leaned forward a little. You are attractive and have what is called a sense of style on an intuitive level. I want our artists and models to look not just professionally made up, but mesmerizing, and I see that you can do it. Layla felt her self-esteem growing. She had not heard such enthusiastic praise for a long time. This is all very tempting. But I have a family, a husband, and a small child. I can't disappear in the evenings, as happens in the club sphere. We will find a way to accommodate your schedule. There will be no need to sit up at night. It's enough to show up before key events, control everything, and sometimes stay late if necessary. Well, or send your people. There are options. Everything sounds beautiful. Layla paused, thinking. What about the contract? Salary? What amount? In short, we can discuss something in the region of $4,000 a month at the start. Layla almost let out a sigh. For the whole day in the salon, she earned, of course, less. And here, even if it's not daily work, but a lot, she said almost in a whisper. This is the price I'm willing to pay if I see a return. She frowned. Are you sure it's not something else? What are you talking about? Adam smiled thinly. Well, suddenly it just seems to me that everything is work-related, but in reality. Adam shook his head. I'm not offering you a love relationship if that's what you're asking. I'm a business person. I need a talented makeup artist, stylist, and just a person who will be associated with my project. I'm also interested in you as a woman, I admit, but all this is secondary. Layla felt a mixed feeling, both slight jealousy at her own sudden outbreak of intrigue and relief that he was not interfering directly. At the same time, it was his confident, calm manner of speaking that ignited the fire inside her. Cold, she finally squeezed out. Let me think about it for a few more days. Let's talk about the contract. I have everything ready. I will send the documents to you by email. Adam stood up. You can have a meeting with my lawyer, discuss everything, and make changes. She nodded and sat down at the bar, where Adam served her another refreshing drink. They sat in silence for several minutes, and Layla suddenly felt how this man, a stranger, barely familiar, was beginning to take up too much space in her thoughts. I'll call, she said, standing up. I am waiting. Adam smiled at her goodbye. She left the bar, feeling a slight trembling in her knees. She had to come home and lie to her husband again, hiding these new plans. But she couldn't help herself. She was drawn into this pool. In the evening, Logan asked with interest, So, how was the meeting with the client? Yes, okay, Layla shrugged, feeling how unpleasantly she sank inside from the lie. Regular makeup, we talked about her future events. It's clear, he smiled. Glad things are going well for you. She lowered her eyes. Usually they shared their joys and victories, but now she couldn't admit. Darling, I was offered a great job and a lot of money, but it just involves nightclubs and meeting a charismatic man who I strangely like. Later, when Colt fell asleep, Logan pulled Layla close to him and began to gently kiss her neck. She shuddered, realizing that today he was especially gentle and clearly wanted intimacy. But everything was confused in her thoughts. There was a desire for her husband, but images and associations swarmed there. She was excited by the very thought of something forbidden. "Love you," Logan whispered. "And I you," she answered, closing her eyes and surrendering to his embrace. In the darkness, they found each other, and it seemed as if she was forgetting all her doubts in these moments of passion. Over the next few days, Layla met in secret with Adam's lawyer, who showed her the contract. The conditions were truly generous. Adam gave her room for maneuver. She could continue to work in her salon while periodically being involved in his projects. She knew she had to tell Logan, but you still have to explain why this person offered her such an agreement. Will my husband have questions or be jealous? Layla was afraid that Logan would consider her decision risky and maybe even, with the scope of his police professionalism, would check this Adam. Finally, she plucked up the courage, and in the evening, when they were sitting at the table, she posted, "You know, Logan, I'm here. Received a very interesting offer for a part-time job." "Yes, tell." "Well, this is connected with one thing. With one company that organizes events and show programs. They want me to do makeup for artists and presenters." "Sounds great," Logan frowned. "And when you got this lined up, I didn't hear anything. I've had a lot of work lately. I'm only now seriously thinking about it myself." "Why not, if you're interested?" Layla looked at her husband. He didn't seem to see the catch. She nodded quietly. "Yes, I want to try it. I will still continue to work in the salon, and this is an addition. Listen, I'm happy for you." He smiled and reached for her hand. "Just be careful. Sometimes there are shady people in the show business industry." Understand, Layla squeezed his palm. Internally, she felt a pang, again a half-truth. The day soon arrived when Layla first began her duties under the auspices of Silver Key Entertainment. There was a private show of a clothing collection in one of Adam's clubs. Layla arrived there after lunch, where several models were waiting for her in need of makeup and hair styling. She worked in the dressing room, concentrating on applying makeup. The models chirped happily about social gossip. Soon Adam appeared. "Hello," he said quietly, passing by and stopping near Layla. "Everything is fine." "Yes," she answered, carefully looking away. He ran his hand over one of the model's hairstyles, looking meticulously. "Great job. Well done. Thank you." By late afternoon, Layla had almost finished, and Adam suggested, "Would you like me to show you the hall where the show itself will be?" "Let's," she said quietly and followed him. They found themselves in a spacious room with a large stage and soft sofas around the perimeter. The music was still low, and visitors had not yet entered. The light was diffused, the podium rose in the center. "Great," Layla said, looking around the interior. "Should be spectacular." "I'm sure it will be so," Adam approached her. "I want to thank you for this work. I see that everything is working out as it should." "This is new for me," Layla looked at him. "But I like it." They were standing too close. In the semi-darkness, his eyes seemed deeper than usual. She felt an intense attraction mixed with fear. "What am I doing?" shouted an inner voice. Adam reached out his hand as if intending to touch her cheek, but suddenly someone shouted from the side of the stage, "Mr. Glaser, Vivienne, the fashion designer, is looking for you." He pulled his hand back and nodded to the man. "I'll be right there." Then he turned to Layla. "I'll be back. Wait here if you want." She squeezed out an embarrassed smile. "I still need to finish one girl's makeup." "Understood," Adam answered and quickly left. Closer to midnight, the show ended. Layla was exhausted, but pleased with the result. Models approached her and thanked her for her makeup. Someone even asked for contacts for future one-on-one sessions. The music stopped and people began to leave. Layla took her things and went out into the corridor. There was no fuss there anymore, only security guards and a couple of employees. Adam appeared around the corner, looking tired but happy. "How are you?" he asked. "Squeeze like a lemon," she smiled. "But it was great." "Let's go to my office, sit for a few minutes, relax," he suggested. Layla hesitated, but Adam had already stepped forward, inviting her to follow him. Her anxiety was beating inside her. "No, don't," whispered one voice. "Come on, just talk anyway," another objected. Adam's office was on the second floor of the club, a small room with a leather sofa, a massive table, and shelves with documents. There were glasses and a bottle of expensive whiskey on the table. "Sit down," he pointed to the sofa and walked to the table. "Would you like some water or something stronger?" "Water," Layla quickly answered. My head was already buzzing. He poured her a glass of water from the decanter and handed it to her. Then he sat down next to him on the sofa and turned on calm music at low volume. "I'm glad we started collaborating," said Adam. "You did a good job. Hopefully, we'll have another big event soon." "I'll be happy to participate," she nodded, trying to look anywhere but at him. Adam turned to her, looking intently. "I really like you, Layla." Her heart sank. Unpleasant and pleasant goosebumps ran through my body at the same time. "Adam, I'm married. I have a child," she said barely audibly. "I know," he answered quietly. "I'm not going to ruin your life. You will make your own choice." She clutched the glass of water tightly and placed it on the table with shaking hands. "Let's not," she breathed. "As you say," he raised his hands in a reconciling gesture, but did not look away. "We can just be friends, work together. I respect your boundaries." The words, "I respect your boundaries," sounded calm, and yet she saw a fiery spark in his eyes. She was sure that he would not stop if he felt a backlash. Finally, she stood up. "It's time for me to go home." "Understand," he said quietly. "I just want you to know that if you want something more, I'm here." Layla's throat was dry. Without saying another word, she quickly left the office and hurried to the exit. Once she got into the car, she almost burst into tears from the tension. "Why don't I feel innocent?" flashed through my head. After all, nothing formally happened, but deep down she realized she had already crossed the line. At home, she was greeted by a sleeping city, and in the bedroom, the quiet snoring of her husband and son, who had climbed under his father's side. Logan, feeling her lie down on the bed, asked in a half-asleep voice, "Are you back?" "Everything is fine." "Yes," Layla answered quietly, "everything is great." And this was another lie. Gradually, Logan began to notice changes in his wife's behavior. She became more absent-minded, went away more often, supposedly on business, and came home excited or, conversely, aloof. But she met all his questions with assurances. "I just have a lot of worries right now with a new project." One evening, when Layla was late, and he had to pick Colt up from kindergarten himself, he raised the topic with her. "Lael, what's happening to you?" They sat in the living room. Colt watched cartoons. "Nothing," she feigned bewilderment. "I'm stuck at work, and I'm getting tired." "Listen, you haven't been yourself for a week now. Don't go into yourself." Logan's voice sounded serious. "Maybe you need to rest. Take a weekend." "Everything is under control." She snapped and went into the kitchen, slamming the door. Doubt arose in Logan's soul. He knew that in a marriage there were periods of fatigue. But before they discussed everything, this time she was clearly hiding something. At work, sharing doubts with Jim, he heard, "Yes, maybe she's just tired of everything house, salon, child, maybe depression." "Hope," Logan sighed. "I'll try to talk to her again. I don't want to be paranoid." That night, he wanted to approach her and talk about what was bothering her, but Layla confidently rebuffed any questions. She responded to his cautious attempt to hug and kiss with a cool touch, citing a headache. Logan was starting to get seriously worried. Soon Adam threw a party at the country club. Under the pretext of doing makeup for performing DJs and dancers, Layla was going there again. She again lied to her husband that she had an urgent call from a client. Logan looked at her in disbelief, but didn't know what to say. Having arrived at the place, a beautiful country mansion with a swimming pool and a guest house, Layla was surprised by the scale. Lights, music, tables with treats, invited guests in luxurious outfits everywhere. "Ogo," she muttered when Adam met her at the entrance. "Welcome," he smiled. "Today will be unforgettable." She followed him into a special room where several dancers were already languishing, awaiting makeup. Layla got to work. Several hours passed in rhythm. Apply eyeshadow, fix your hair, adjust your lipstick. When the main wave of preparation finally ended, Layla got distracted and decided to go out into the air. The patio, surrounded by topiary bushes, was relatively quiet. She breathed in the fresh air with pleasure. And then a voice came from behind. "I thought you wouldn't come out of the dressing room." She turned around. Adam. "Needed a break," she said, smiling slightly. "Are you following me?" "Not at all," he came closer. "Just wanted to make sure you weren't bored." In the moonlight, his figure and gaze seemed even more attractive. She felt everything inside her shrink. "Do you remember what I said?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "That you are married and have a child," he answered quietly, approaching almost closely. "I remember." Then, his hand rested on her waist, carefully but firmly. Layla's heart was beating like crazy. She understood that now she would either push him away or... Adam leaned towards her lips, and she couldn't resist. This kiss was greedy, long, digging into her soul. She pressed herself against him, feeling a wave of hot passion rising from the depths of her being. She pulled away for a moment, trying to come to her senses. "Oh God, what am I doing?" "Only what you really want," he whispered. She felt a rush of adrenaline and guilt at the same time. Desire overwhelmed her, and she stepped into the darkness, drawn by Adam with her. A couple of phrases were enough for him to persuade her to go up to one of the guest bedrooms. Everything mixed up in one rush. The forbidden taste of kisses, touches, removal of clothes. It seemed as if time had stopped. Never before had she cheated on her husband. She had never considered herself capable of such betrayal. But now, at this moment, she didn't think about anything except Adam's caresses, from which her body was on fire. When it was all over, she lay next to him, looking at the ceiling. There was a realization of what had been done. "I cheated on my husband." This thought echoed in my head, causing horror and a strange, intoxicating euphoria. "Don't worry," Adam said quietly, touching her shoulder. "Everything will be fine." She didn't answer. Tears welled up in my eyes. After all, now she has definitely crossed the point of no return. They got dressed, and Adam led her into a quiet corridor. "I understand you need to go." "Yes," Layla answered barely audibly, avoiding his gaze. In the car, leaving the territory of the mansion, she could not calm down. Logan called. She didn't dare answer. Only a few minutes later, stopping on the side of the road, she called back. "Hi, sorry, it was noisy. I didn't hear it." "Layla, is everything okay? I'm already starting to worry." Yes, she somehow lied. "I'm going home." "Okay, be careful." She hung up and burst into tears, dropping her head on the steering wheel. I understood that I would never be the same again. What's next? The following days turned into a swamp of lies and self-criticism for Layla. She hid the betrayal, but continued to communicate with Adam. He wrote her messages with ambiguous hints. "I can't forget our night," or "I want more. When will I see you?" Layla answered briefly, asking to wait and not to rush. At the same time, she felt that she could not simply break off the relationship. In addition to the passion that she discovered in herself, there was also a contract, money, and prospects. Adam became a source of excitement for her, making her stable life with Logan seem dull. But her conscience tormented her. Every time she looked into her husband's eyes, she felt like a liar. He, in turn, saw that Layla was moving away, but had no idea of the real reason. "Listen," he turned to her one evening, "I understand that you have a new stage, new projects. But maybe we can find time for the two of us. Shall we go to a restaurant and leave Colt with Grandma for the night?" "I don't mind," she answered coolly, "but I need to fit it into my schedule." He frowned. "Since when do you have to be scheduled to have dinner with your husband?" She didn't answer anything and pretended that she hadn't heard the question. But inside, she felt a growing tension. The web of deception around her became thicker. She was afraid that sooner or later Logan would find out the truth, and she was horrified, imagining how he would react. But she couldn't stop anymore. A month later, when Layla's deceptions began to occur more and more often, and Adam periodically called her either to work or to personal meetings, Logan felt that something was fishy. Fragments popped into his head: her detachment, the appearance of this new project in their life, her evening outings, midnight returns. Depression, bright red flags were flashing around, and only a blind person could not see them, but thank God he had no problems with his eyesight. He decided to check if there were any strange contacts or messages on her phone. One evening, when she was already asleep and left the phone on the kitchen table, Logan picked it up. However, the device was locked with a password he did not know. They used to have no secrets, but now— Idiot idea, he muttered, returning to the bedroom. He didn't like spying, but feelings of jealousy and anxiety were eating him up from the inside. The next day, while Layla was taking a shower, Logan noticed a piece of paper sticking out of a folder in her bag. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the logo, Silver Key Entertainment. I grabbed this sheet. It was part of a contract signed by Adam Glazer. So this is the name, Logan whispered. That's it. He quickly took a photo of this document on his phone so that he could study it in more detail later. Returning the sheet to its place, he thought, who is this Glazer, and why is Layla silent about him? From that moment on, Logan, like a policeman, turned on the investigative instinct. He began to quietly make inquiries. Meanwhile, Layla was floating along the current of passionate deception. She periodically met with Adam, sometimes under the pretext of work, sometimes when passion became unbearable. Every time she went to bed with her husband, she felt the stigma of betrayal. But she was drawn to Adam like a forbidden fruit. One day, after another secret meeting, she got into a car next to the club. The phone rang. Logan. Yes, I'm listening, she said in a broken voice. Layla, where are you? I came home, you're gone. I'm at a client's, she lied, closing her eyes. I'll be there soon. Okay, don't be late. Logan's voice sounded cold. Layla hung up and almost threw the phone out the window. It seemed to her that the whole world was shrinking around her. What have I done? It was pounding in my head. That evening she decided, enough is enough. We need to stop. She called Adam and said in a trembling voice, we need to stop. I can't lie to my husband anymore. At first, there was a pause on the line. Then Adam replied, do you want to complete the contract? Or what are you talking about? No, let the contract remain. But our personal relationships. Understood, Adam spoke evenly, without hysterics. Do you think this will work? Can you pretend that nothing happened between us? I can, she lied, not believing it herself. It's just, I love my husband. This is all a big mistake. This can't be done. I have to save the family. Understand, he sighed. If this is the final decision, then I won't insist. She squeezed the phone. Thanks, Adam. After putting down the phone, Layla felt a heaviness, as if she had lost a part of herself. But she knew this had to be done before it was too late. A few more days passed. Layla tried to behave more affably with Logan and decided to rebuild a bridge between them. But her smiles were strained, the tension was palpable. Logan, meanwhile, conducted a check in the police database and learned some information about Silver Key Entertainment and its owner, Adam Glazer. There was nothing particularly criminal in the database, but rumors surfaced about Glazer's participation in rather dubious transactions and some other information that alerted Logan. In the evening, when Layla was putting Colt to bed, Logan waited until his son fell asleep and went into her room. We need to have a serious conversation. She felt her hands getting cold. About what? About what you've been doing lately. And who is Adam Glazer? Layla turned pale. Did you find out something? Yes, something. His voice sounded tense. You work for him. You signed a contract. Why am I only finding out about this now? I told you I work for a new company, she retorted, trying to remain confident. Only for some reason you didn't mention this Glazer's name. She didn't say how close your relationship is. I doubt more and more that it's just work. She bit her lip. I wanted to deny, but I saw how Logan was looking intently, with resentment and determination. "What are you talking about?" she whispered. "Be honest, Layla." He clenched his fists. "Did you cheat on me?" The words stuck in my throat. She understood that any lie would be useless. He already sensed the truth, and she couldn't hide it convincingly. Tears came to my eyes. "Sorry," she sobbed. It was a mistake." Crap. Logan exhaled and grabbed his head. So yes, after all, this. Layla didn't know how to justify herself. "It's all over. I wanted to finish." He looked at her as if he was seeing her for the first time and asked quietly, "How many times?" She remained silent, tears flowing down her cheeks. Logan cringed as if he had been hit. He stood there for a few moments, breathing heavily, then said, "Go to your mother. I'll file for divorce." "Logan, no." Layla rushed to him, trying to hug him, but he pushed her away. "Don't touch me." His eyes burned with rage and pain. "Get out of the house." Colt, awakened by the noise, left the room, looking at his parents in fear. Layla wanted to calm her son down, but Logan firmly took the boy by the shoulders and said, "Mom is leaving. We'll be alone." There was rage mixed with despair in his voice. Colt burst into tears, not understanding what was happening. Layla reached out to him, but Logan dodged, hugging his son. "Leave," he muttered. "I don't want to see you." And she left, crying in what she was wearing, with a bag and automatic words, "Sorry, sorry," on her lips. Logan stayed home with Colt. The boy was crying and asking why his mother left. Logan tried to calm his son down, although inside he was seething with pain and anger. He never thought that Layla could decide to do this. When the child finally fell asleep, exhausted, Logan went out into the yard. The cool wind of the night burned my face. He looked at the stars, clutching his phone in his pocket. Images appeared before my eyes. Layla in tears, her confession. "Curse," he whispered. Several years of a happy marriage, a common child, a house, and everything was in jeopardy. He wanted to destroy everything, to take out evil on anything. But he understood that the main thing now was to keep his head cool. Suddenly, the image of Adam Glaser flashed before my eyes. He stole my wife. He destroyed my family. Logan's blood boiled. The next morning, Layla called and asked to talk. Logan coldly replied that he did not want to see her, that they would discuss everything with the lawyers. He was adamant. She cried into the phone and asked not to break up the family, but he just said, "The family was broken when you went to bed with someone else." Then he passed out. Logan walked around in a fog all day. Jim noticed his condition and asked, "What's wrong with you, buddy?" Logan didn't go into detail, just muttered briefly that there were problems at home. Jim, even though he was a long-time friend, understood. If Logan didn't tell, it meant everything was serious. In the meantime, Logan asked his police contacts for additional information about Adam Glaser. I found out in what circles he moved, where his establishments were, which influential personalities could be his patrons. "I won't let this bastard live in peace," Logan whispered, going through the received data. "He will still answer everything." But Logan understood that he couldn't just arrest him for seducing his wife. "We need to find something to complain about." If Adam was truly involved in something illegal, Logan was going to get to the bottom of it. And at the same time, the desire to simply reward Glaser with his fists or a bullet did not leave him. But professional responsibility and understanding of the law held him back. However, there were rumors that Adam had gray money in his back offices and that he could sell illegal substances through nightclubs. "If this is true, I'll squeeze you," Logan decided. Layla, meanwhile, lived with her friend, Caitlin, crying at night. She realized that she had lost the most precious thing, although she herself provoked this collapse. She wanted her husband back, but how? One day, she sent Logan a message. "Please, let's talk. I made a mistake, but I love you." There was no answer. Then she called Caroline, the lawyer her family worked with. Caroline said, "If he files for divorce, we can ask for alimony and joint custody of the child. But is it worth rushing with the papers? Maybe try to negotiate the terms first, advised the lawyer. Layla was confused. She didn't want war, but she knew Logan was furious. In the meantime, she called Adam, hoping to find at least some consolation in the conversation, but he did not answer. The next day, I received a message from him. I don't want to meddle in your family affairs. If you need help, I'm here. But it seems now is not the time. He already got everything he wanted from her. She felt lost. The husband is angry, the lover is moving away, life is falling apart. What to do? Logan, busy with his plans, began to intensively conduct a behind-the-scenes investigation against Adam. He used his connections to probe the staff at Glacier's clubs and talk to former employees. He collected bits of information like a puzzle. He knew that if irrefutable evidence could be found, the county sheriff would give the green light for the operation. This means Adam will be put behind bars. Meanwhile, his personal feelings interfered with his composure. He thirsted not just for justice, but for revenge. Memories of Layla and her confession haunted him. He stopped drinking coffee, replacing it with incessant smoking. He nervously went out of the area and smoked cigarette after cigarette. One evening, he was sitting at the computer at home while Colt was sleeping and came across an article about a recent incident at one of Adam's bars. Guy caught with illegal substances, police did not record anything. In the comments, they wrote that the owner of the bar hushed up the matter with money. A week after the huge scandal, Layla felt that she could no longer live in limbo. She wanted to meet Logan and try to talk. She went to the house, but Logan didn't answer the door. The car was parked in the yard, which meant he was at home. Layla knocked again and again until eventually the door opened. "What do you want?" Logan asked, looking at her coldly. "We need to talk." "Please," she squeezed out. He let her inside, closing the door. Layla saw a mess: empty beer cans, cigarette smoke, scattered papers. The house, once so cozy, was now in chaos. Colt apparently wasn't there. Maybe he left it with Logan's parents. "What to talk about?" Logan sank into a chair. "You cheated on me. I threw you out. Anything else?" She sat down next to him, crying. "It's my fault, Logan. I'm confused. I don't want to lose my family." "I should have thought before," he snapped. "You went towards this deliberately. I believed you and you." He squeezed the glass on the table. "By the way, how is your lover? Enjoying freedom?" "I didn't see him. I stopped everything," she sobbed. He chuckled. It sounded bitter. "Late. I have already started filing divorce papers." "No." Layla fell to her knees in front of him and grabbed his hand. "I beg you, don't do this. I'll give up everything, all these projects. Let's go somewhere, start over." He looked at her, his eyes full of pain. "Why should I trust you now?" "Because I love you," she whispered. "Because this is a mistake. I'm confused." You can make a mistake once, but you repeat it. This means that this is not a mistake, but a conscious choice. Tears flowed freely from her. Logan looked down, clearly struggling with emotion, then pulled her away and stood up. "You know, maybe I'll sign these papers anyway," he said evenly, "but I haven't decided yet. I need time." "Thank you," she sobbed. "Go. I'll call you when I'm ready to talk." She left, depressed, but with a tiny hope that all was not lost. I didn't suspect that a plan for revenge had already matured in Logan's soul, and he was not going to forgive anyone. Logan received confirmation from one unnamed source. At night, in one of the warehouses owned by Glacier's company, a gray transaction was to take place. Allegedly, some people from out of state will come, and Glacier will be there in person. Here's my chance, Logan decided. He contacted Jim, explained that there was suspicious activity, and asked for help with the operation. He replied that official evidence and sanctions from the sheriff were needed. But Logan was so obsessed with revenge that he decided to act semi-legally. "You and I will go there, film everything on camera, then hand it over to the sheriff, and there will be evidence," said Logan. Jim hesitated. "Logan, we can fly in. This is outside of our formal assignment. If we find evidence, no one will blame us. Are you coming with me?" Jim shook his head but agreed. Perhaps he sensed that Logan was on the verge of madness and was afraid to leave his friend alone with this risky plan. On the night when everything was supposed to happen, Logan left Colt with his parents. He and Jim drove out to that very warehouse, an abandoned building on the outskirts, rare lanterns. They left the car in a secluded place and made their way closer. Soon several cars arrived at the warehouse. Logan recognized Adam's Mercedes among them. He got out with a couple of other strong guys, then a few strangers in another car. Negotiations began. Logan and Jim filmed everything on camera from afar. The sound was unintelligible, but visually you could see how Adam was handed a suitcase and he handed over another package in return. "Great," Logan whispered. "All it takes is for the sheriff to issue a search warrant, and there we will dig up everything else." In his excitement, he slightly gave away his location. He touched a metal beam with his knee, and a ringing sound was heard. The people at the warehouse tensed. One of the thugs grabbed a pistol and began peering into the darkness. "Your mother," Jim breathed. "I'm digging." They rushed back, managing to hide behind the warehouse and get to the car. They started up and drove off at high speeds. Logan, having driven to a safe distance, stopped on the side of the road, trembling with adrenaline. "We have a video," he said, breathing heavily. "This is the end of Glazer." Jim nodded nervously, wiping sweat from his brow. "They're crazy. If the sheriff doesn't cover us, there will be problems." "He will cover," Logan said gloomily. "I'll prove this bastard is a criminal." In fact, Logan wanted not only justice, but also the complete collapse of Adam's life. After all, he took away the most precious thing from him, his wife, faith, peace. The next morning, Logan rushed out to meet with Sheriff Marlowe. I showed him the video on the flash drive. Marlowe stared for a long time, wrinkling his brow, then asked, "Did you have any sanctions for operational filming?" "No," Logan admitted, but the situation was urgent. "Crap," the sheriff swore. "If this comes out, you'll be in trouble. But this is a damn serious video. If we get a warrant and find evidence, the recording will become evidence." "Okay, I'll take it." He signed a document giving the right to search the Silver Key Entertainment warehouses under the pretext of searching for illegal goods. The operation was scheduled for the next day. Logan was officially assigned to it. "Take a group from the control department and leave. But everything must be according to the law," the sheriff warned. Logan nodded and left the office with sparkling eyes. "Tomorrow I will finish you off, Glazer," he thought, imagining handcuffing the one who destroyed his marriage. The day of the search arrived. Logan, Jim, and a group of several officers in patrol cars drove up to the warehouses owned by Glazer. When security showed up, Logan produced a warrant. They began to search the room, drawers, and utility rooms. At first, they didn't find anything special, ordinary club equipment, a supply of alcohol. But one of the officers noticed a secret door behind the rack. Opening it, they saw a whole room in which there were boxes with wads of cash, bags containing prohibited substances. "Here it is," Logan exclaimed. A couple more searches in adjacent warehouses. Similar things were found. It became clear they had stumbled upon an underground warehouse for black activities. "Detain everyone," Logan ordered. The guards were placed face down on the floor and taken to the police station. Adam, however, was not there. Apparently, he was not here that day, but he had already received a summons for questioning. The evidence collected was enough to seize the property and initiate a criminal case. Logan was triumphant. He achieved his goal. Silver Key Entertainment will be under investigation. Glazer will be responsible for everything. News of a large-scale search of Glazer's company quickly spread throughout the city. The newspapers wrote, "The largest chain of nightclubs is involved in crime." The television reported, "The owner of Silver Key Entertainment faces prosecution." Layla saw Adam's name on the news. That evening, Layla called Adam, her voice trembling. "How are you?" "Don't worry," he answered hoarsely. "My lawyers are working. Nothing has been proven yet." "Sorry, maybe it's all because of me," she almost whispered, realizing that Logan was getting Glazer out of jealousy. This is him, Adam guessed. Is your husband a cop? Yes. I don't know what will happen now. Calm down, Layla. I'm holding on. But if things go too far, I won't sit idly by either. She shuddered. Please don't do anything stupid. I'm not going to court without a fight. Adam answered and hung up the call. Layla felt that she had fallen into the vortex of two fierce men. One is her husband, whom she cheated on. The other is the lover who destroyed her marriage. And everyone strives for reprisals against the other. The next day, Logan received an urgent call. A man's body was found on the outskirts of the city. Having driven up to the scene of the incident with his partner, Logan saw that it was the car of one of Glacer's guards, the same one whom they had detained, but then released on bail. Looks like a witness purge. Logan immediately thought of Adam. He's eliminating those who can testify against him. But he had no proof. He felt terrified. The hostility had gone too far. Returning home, he found a message on his answering machine. A deep male voice said, "Logan, you don't know who you're messing with. Leave it and don't pry, otherwise there may be casualties. This is a warning." Layla did not know about the murder, but she guessed that the situation was heating up. She tried to talk to Logan, but he didn't pick up. Left him a message. "Are you okay? Please don't risk it. Let's talk." He called back only in the evening. "What do you want?" The voice is dry, distant. "Logan, this is all very scary. I'm afraid, Adam." "Don't mention this name," he exploded. "It all started because of him." "Sorry," she whispered. "I never wanted this. I'm begging you to stop. I'm worried about Colt, about us. I'll take Colt to my parents. It's safe there," he said coldly. "And you do what you want. I don't care." With these words, he hung up and Layla burst into tears. The police continued their investigation. Adam, through his lawyers, stood his ground. "All the things found in the warehouses were planted. My client has nothing to do with them." He refused to cooperate with the investigation and also hinted that he might make a deal. But Logan, the senior officer in this matter, did not want any deals. He wanted to imprison Glazer or, even better, destroy him. Every day he studied new materials, looking for where else he could get to Adam. One evening, while Logan was staying at the station, Jim approached him. "Listen, we're going completely overboard. Our witnesses started disappearing. Someone was killing people. Maybe we should take a step back and hand everything over to the FBI." "No," Logan snapped. "I won't let this bastard get away with this. He destroyed my family." "I also want justice," Jim objected quietly. "But, buddy, I'm afraid for you." Logan didn't answer. Layla, feeling that the situation was getting out of control, decided on a last resort. She wanted to persuade Adam to leave, to hide for a while in order to end the conflict. Then maybe Logan will cool down. Meeting Adam in his temporary office, she pleaded, "Please take a step back. You see it's gone too far." Adam answered with steely notes in his voice. "I won't hide. This cop thinks he got me, but I have many friends and resources. I'm afraid for everyone," Layla whispered. Adam softened a little. "Look, I know you're torn between your guilt and our connection, but understand, I will not give up my empire because of personal drama." She felt hopeless. All she could do was drive away and pray that they wouldn't kill each other. But fate has already woven its threads for the denouement. In the evening, Logan received an anonymous message on his phone. "Glazer will be at his country house today. If you want to get even, come alone." "Looks like a trap," Jim said when Logan showed him the text message. "What if not? Maybe this is a chance to get him to talk." Logan was burning with determination. "But you shouldn't go there alone." "Don't be afraid. Protect me from afar." Logan stubbornly prepared to leave. So late at night, armed, he arrived at Glazer's country mansion. Jim remained nearby, in the car with the headlights off. Logan entered the house through an unlocked door. The light was dim in the spacious living room. Adam stood by the fireplace, holding a glass in his hand. "I've been waiting for you, cop." "Fine," Logan said, clutching the gun in his pocket. "You know why I'm here." Of course, Adam turned around, chuckling. Do you want my blood because I was with your wife, or because I am a criminal? And for that, and for others, Logan muttered through his teeth. Seriously, I'd rather you rot in jail. Well, try it. Maybe we'll have a duel first. Adam calmly put the glass on the table. Thought about it. Suddenly, the click of a weapon was heard behind Logan. He turned around. One of Glacer's men took aim at the back of his head. Adam laughed. You disrespectfully entered without an invitation, and we are ready. Logan knew he was trapped. But then shots were heard from the street gym. Seeing that someone was guarding his friend, decided to act. A shootout began. Adam swore. Fool, your partner. Logan pointed the gun at him. Die, he whispered, ready to pull the trigger. But suddenly a female figure appeared at the door. Layla, she shouted. Don't shoot. How and where Layla came from remains a mystery to Logan. It later turned out that she found out about this date from Jim's chance conversation on the phone and rushed here in a panic. Leave, Logan growled, not lowering his weapon. No, she threw herself between him and Adam, covering the latter with herself. Don't do this. I don't want you to become a killer. Move away, Layla. It's my fault, not his. I myself. He messed with your brains. Logan's eyes glowed with rage. Adam looked up at this scene. Move away, girl, he squeezed out. He will still do what he has in mind. No, Layla whispered, looking Logan straight in the eyes. Forgive me, please, but don't ruin your life. Colt should have a father, not a killer. Sirens were already sounding outside and police were surrounding the house. Logan knew that if he fired, he would have to answer. But rage pushed him to pull the trigger. Suddenly, he lowered his weapon, his eyes filled with tears. You ruined everything, he whispered. You and him. Now I'm a bastard who wanted to kill a man. He took a step back and dropped the gun. His strength left him. Layla began to sob. Adam, groaning, tried to get up, but then police officers burst into the house and pinned him down. Logan raised his hands to indicate that he was unarmed. Everyone stood, shouted the leading officer. Lie down. Layla and Logan sank to the floor and Adam was carried out on a stretcher. The whole scene ended with the sound of sirens. Police cars surrounded the house, sirens blared outside, officers scurried around the yard, and flashing lights flickered. Inside, the living room is chaotic. Adam Glacer was lying on a stretcher, which was already being carried out to the ambulance. Logan and Layla sat on the floor, with their hands raised, looking at each other dumbfounded. An officer from the drug control department was the first to run up to them and sharply shouted, Head out, no sudden movements, He's injured, Layla whispered, pointing at Adam. He needs help. They're already dealing with him, the officer snapped. Logan stood up slowly, showing empty hands. The second policeman jumped up and tried to twist his arms back. Logan burst out. Hey, calm down, I belong. Take it easy. A familiar voice intervened. It was Jim, Logan's partner, who, along with other officers, burst in a little later. This is Sergeant Logan Rivers. We had an operation. Operation, the drug control officer muttered incredulously, and it looks like you yourself staged a showdown here. This is true, Logan muttered, looking away from Layla. Here Glazer's bandits attacked first. Layla, trembling, pressed her palms to her chest. Please let us go. I'm not a policewoman. I came here to stop them. Let's figure it out, answered Jim. But first, everyone to the station. Let's give evidence. At the station, Logan was taken to a separate office. He was forced to give up his pistol and went through a formal procedure as a suspect or as a participant in the shootout. He had to be interrogated. He felt disgusted in his soul. Never before had he thought that he would find himself on the other side of the barricades. Hand over personal items, one of the officers said sharply. Yes, no problem. Logan put his phone and wallet on the table. You call the sheriff. He knows everything. The sheriff is aware, will be here soon. The officer sat down at the table opposite. Sergeant, did you realize that you were acting without an authorized detention order? I had operational information. Logan tried to speak evenly, but he felt like everything was boiling inside. Yes, I came without official insurance, but it was a disguised meeting. Glazer. Tell me about Glazer later, the officer sighed. We will now take official testimony from you. Your friend, Officer Jim, also rents them out. You know, Logan clenched his teeth. This could have ended much worse. But not for me and Jim, but for those who held weapons on us there. I've heard this story before, the officer shrugged, pressing the record button on the recorder. Start with how you ended up in the house. While Logan testified, Layla was kept in another office. She was not formally arrested, but she was not released either. 2 hours later, Logan finally emerged from the interrogation room. He was met by a tall, thin man with dark, short hair, Sheriff Gerald Marlowe, the same one who was in charge of the station. So what, Rivers? The sheriff sighed heavily. Why the hell are you doing there alone? I received an anonymous message, Logan muttered, wearily rubbing his temple. They invited me to a conversation. I realized it was a trap, but I decided. What did you decide? Show yourself what kind of superhero you are? The sheriff stared at him angrily. We already have a documented case against Glazer. If only they had waited a little bit, they would have gone through official channels and cleaned up his business. And now we have a shootout. Do you know what it looks like from the outside? I didn't want to. Logan began. Whether he wanted it or not, now the bosses are on their ears. I just don't know if I can cover for you. The sheriff clenched his teeth. It is possible that internal management will take over the investigation. They will check your work and motives. Logan was silent, looking at the floor. He realized that everything had gone too far. Sheriff, I admit my responsibility, he finally said evenly, but please allow me to participate in the case to the end. I know better than anyone what Glazer breathes. You now know better than anyone how to create problems in our heads. Marlowe smiled wryly, but I don't want to remove you completely. You've accumulated too much evidence. First, there will be an internal check. For now, go home, rest. Don't even think about delving further into this matter without permission. Fine, Logan answered through gritted teeth. He understood. Going home means returning to empty walls, remembering everything that happened, stewing in the hell of his own thoughts. But there is no other way. When he went outside, it was already past midnight. Layla stood near the steps of the station, wrapped in a jacket, as if she was waiting for him. When he saw her, Logan felt a pang. Pain, anger, fatigue, everything was mixed up. Logan, she called out quietly. What are you doing here? He asked dryly, without stopping, walking towards the car. I was waiting for you. I wanted to know if you were okay. Should have worried earlier, he snapped. I understand. Her voice trembled. There were tears in her eyes. Logan, God, I'm so guilty. He didn't answer and abruptly opened the door of his car. Layla followed. Can we talk? A little? At least. What about, Layla? About your passion for this bastard? About how you tried to save his life? I wanted to save you, she whispered. I was afraid that you would do something irreparable. And well, you heroically stood between me and him. Yes, Layla felt her heart pounding. Because no matter what, I don't want you to go to jail for murder. I want. To what? Logan turned to her. His face was distorted with contempt and pain. So that we can return to a happy family life. Sorry, but this is impossible. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Please understand, I'm not trying to make excuses. I know you're hurting right now. But, shut up, he said quietly, closing his eyes. Do you want me to say, okay, everything is fine, come, we will live as before? No, I can't do that. His hand already held the key in the ignition. Layla pressed her hand to her mouth, holding back her sobs. Cold, she whispered. I understood. She stepped away from the car. Logan started the engine, and a second later the car sped off into the night. Layla was left standing in the empty courtyard near the police station, feeling like the most unfortunate woman in the world. Logan was sitting on the deck of his parents' house. After all the events of the night, he took Colt there so that his son would be under the supervision of his grandparents. The boy did not yet understand what exactly was happening. He only saw how much his dad had changed. Now Colt was playing in the garden, pushing a toy car on the grass, and next to him his father, Logan, held a cup of tea in his hand, but did not drink. He looked absent. "Son, at least you can sing normally." His mother, Sandra Rivers, a slightly plump woman with a kind face, said quietly, "How long can you sit on your nerves?" "Thank you, Mom." Logan put the tea on the table. "I don't want to now." "I understand how hard it is for you," entered his father, Joseph Rivers, an older man with an upright posture. "But think about what happens next. You can't stay in limbo like this." Logan nervously ran his hand through his hair. "Honestly, I don't know what will happen next. I'm awaiting a service check. Maybe demoted in rank or even fired." "And Layla," the mother asked cautiously, "are you going to file for divorce?" Logan fell silent and shrugged his shoulders. Then, unable to stand it, he exhaled. "I wanted to do this a couple of weeks ago, but now my head is a mess. She is still the mother of my child." "But she betrayed you," the father said firmly. "Sorry, but I think that this should be answered." "Dad, I understand. No need to remind." The father frowned, but remained silent. Sandra quietly took Logan's hand. "Son, we can't decide for you. Just know, we love you and will support any decision you make." Logan just nodded. He looked at little Colt, who brought a toy car to his feet, and proudly exclaimed, "Dad, look, it's the police. Rides around and catches bandits." Logan felt a tightness in his throat. "Catching bandits is my job," flashed through my head. "But I myself am on the verge of becoming a criminal because of revenge." He lifted his son into his arms and pressed his cheek to him. "Yes, son, the police." Colt wrapped his arms around his father's neck, not understanding the full depth of what was happening. Logan felt at that moment that he could not allow this whole tragedy to drag on for many years. You need to make decisions about your family, about your work, about yourself. And suddenly the phone rang. Logan looked at the screen, an unfamiliar number. He answered, and Officer Annette Hendricks's voice came over the phone. "Sergeant Rivers, we've received word from the hospital that Adam Glaser has regained consciousness and is seeking a counterclaim. He accuses you of attempted murder." "Well, of course," Logan muttered quietly, his heart skipping a beat. "He and his lawyers are trying to frame me. The sheriff wants to see you. Come to the station as soon as possible." "Understood." Logan sighed heavily. Having turned off the call, he realized that there would be no calm. "We need to go and see what they came up with," he thought bitterly, internally feeling that Adam had the opportunity to get out even after the warehouses had been found. Colt, seeing his dad frown, asked, "Dad, are you leaving?" "Yes, son, off to work." "What about me?" "You will stay with your grandparents for now." Logan touched his hair. "I'll be back soon." His father helped Colt get away with Logan. The mother looked at her son worriedly. "Be careful." Necessarily, Logan smiled tensely. He walked to the car, once again immersed in the feeling that he was entering a battlefield. There was a hectic spirit in the precinct. Officers were scurrying about, someone was talking animatedly on the radio, and the telephone was ringing incessantly. Logan slipped into his office, now no longer personal, because his powers were temporarily taken away. There he was met by Sheriff Marlowe with a distinct grimace of irritation. "Here you are," said Marlowe. "Damn it, Rivers, Glaser hired the sharks of the legal profession. They're already threatening to sue you and the entire department. What exactly are they claiming?" The sheriff opened the folder that was lying on the table. "According to their version, that evening you broke into his private property without any official reason, and when he tried to push you out the door, a shootout began. Allegedly, he had no idea about the warehouses, everything was planted on him, and you, taking advantage of your police status, staged a personal vendetta." "Lie." Logan raised his voice. "We found prohibited substances and weapons. We have an expert opinion. And lawyers say it all could have been planted." The sheriff slammed the folder irritably. "Plus, they hint at your personal interest, because Glaser was having an affair with your wife." Logan frowned, feeling his chest tighten with anger. Well, it turns out that we are still faced with the fact that he will hit where it hurts most. And he hits right, Marlowe confirmed. He dragged in everything, from your threats against him to the fight with his guards in the past. You may be accused of abuse of power or even attempted murder. And if he proves that we did not have a clear order at the moment when you called him to the meeting. I received a warrant to search warehouses, not my personal home. Logan said, I know. The sheriff sighed heavily. Our department, of course, doesn't want to turn you in, but no one will protect you to the detriment of themselves either. Logan understood that everything was too serious here. If Adam manages to get out of this and provide a fake alibi, then Logan will be in a very vulnerable position. What do you recommend? He asked, dully. Take a vacation and hire a good lawyer, Marlowe snapped. Let the lawyer defend you, and we will try to get to the bottom of the truth about the warehouses. If we find irrefutable evidence against Glaser, he won't turn away. Logan nodded silently. Until recently, he hoped that he had sealed Glaser with his own hands. And now everything is turning into counterclaims. He left the office as if in a dream, having trouble figuring out where to go next. In the corridor, he saw Jim, who rushed towards him. Dude, hang in there. I heard about the lawsuit. Yes, but... Logan grimaced. Hello to your operation. We wanted to catch Glaser on the spot, but now everything is against me. Sorry, Jim quietly squeezed out. The two of us went for it. But apparently, the blame will fall only on you. It's not your fault. I made the decision myself. Logan looked into his eyes. Just help us find enough evidence against Glaser. Then neither the lawyer nor his money will save him. I'll do whatever I can. They shook hands briefly. At that moment, Logan felt like he at least had one true friend left. For the next few days, Layla stayed with Caitlin, trying to leave the house less often. Rumors circulated around the city. Some said that Logan was a hero who had uncovered Glaser's criminal network, others that he was a jealous creature who decided to eliminate his rival because of his wife. Vicious comments appeared on social networks, especially under articles about the shooting. Layla tried not to read, but sometimes she came across phrases like, "My cop husband is an aggressor. Here he is, a disgrace to the police. My wife cheated and everything went to hell." One day, Caroline, a lawyer whom Layla had previously advised on personal matters, called her. "Layla, hello. How are you holding up?" "Badly." Layla did not hide. "Logan doesn't want to see me. Glaser is in the hospital, and I'm in hell." "Listen," Caroline spoke softly in a professional tone. "I know that your husband has not yet filed for divorce. Maybe you can contact him through lawyers and offer an agreement, not to get a divorce, but to go to family mediation. Do you think he'll agree?" Layla asked, hope flashing in her eyes. "I'm not sure. But if he loves his son, he might at least think. Okay, what do you need for this? Find yourself a lawyer. I can help. He will contact Logan's representative if he has a lawyer, or directly with him if not, and he will offer an option, a temporary pause in the marital relationship, counseling with a psychologist, a conditional agreement that you will not intersect until you complete the course. This may delay the divorce process." Layla paused, clutching the phone. "Pull back. What if Logan really wants to tear everything apart?" But on the other hand, she was afraid of the final point. "Okay, let's try it," she said quietly. So she had a timid thought. What if the marriage could be saved, at least somehow? Or at least find a way to stay close to Colt? That evening, she dialed Logan's number. He didn't answer. Then she wrote a message. "Please, I want to reach an agreement without a scandal. It is possible through lawyers. I am ready for any conditions, as long as I don't cut it rashly. I beg you, think about your son." There was no answer all night. Layla cried, sitting in the dark under the blanket. The next morning, the phone rang. She jumped up and grabbed the phone. Logan's name was on the screen. With a sinking heart, I pressed accept. "Hello? Hello?" A tired voice rang out. "Got your message. Why do you need this?" "I want to try to at least figure it out. I'm not saying that will restore everything right away, but Logan exhaled heavily. I also don't want Colt to grow up in constant conflict. Therefore, go ahead as you suggest. Let your law office prepare the agreement. But don't expect me to be soft. Thank you, Layla's voice trembled. I appreciate you agreeing. Don't rejoice ahead of time, he said dully. For me, this is not about forgiveness. This is about trying to not burn bridges for the sake of my son. I understand. They hung up. Layla dropped the phone into her lap with tears of relief. Although this is a small step, it is perhaps the beginning of the path towards some form of reconciliation. The next day, Logan, as promised, turned to a lawyer he knew, Randall Martin, who had previously helped him on some official matters. He listened to the situation and frowned. Logan, this is bad. Your wife is a witness and at the same time the suspect's mistress. It might hit you. But if she herself asks for an agreement. I don't know what I want, Logan admitted honestly. I want my son not to suffer. Then mediation is really an option. Cold Logan ran his hand over his face. Do a project. But be warned, I'm not going to let her manipulate me. If we sign a temporary agreement, let it be clear that she has no claim on the house until the end of the proceedings and Colt remains with me. Fine, I'll write everything down. Soon the document was prepared. Layla met him through her lawyer, Caroline. She read aloud. Agreement on temporary separation. Communication with the child by prior agreement. Payment of expenses for the child. Flipped through the pages. Looks tough, Caroline commented. But at least it's not a complete scam. But if you agree, you have a chance to go to a family psychologist. Layla nodded. Her inside sank when she heard, by prior agreement. It's as if she is being distanced from her son. But maybe this really is better than a final break. I agree, she said quietly. Let's sign. She signed, and the next day Logan signed the same document. When the papers were completed, Layla received a copy and felt a strange devastation. Legally, they were still spouses, but in fact they were now temporarily separated, which may never be put back together. It's been a year since Logan and Layla signed their temporary separation agreement. This year has been full of tense meetings with lawyers, rare and awkward conversations via text, and attempts to find some kind of balance for Colt's sake. They both tried to maintain a normal relationship, and life inexorably collided with them at their sons' birthdays, school events, and random intersections in Murfreesboro, a city that seemed too small for their broken destinies. Logan continued to work in the police, although after an internal check, he was still demoted in rank. He avoided dismissal thanks to the support of Sheriff Marlowe and Jim's testimony, but his reputation was shaken. There were whispers at the station about his personal vendetta, and it left a bitter aftertaste. He moved into a small apartment near his parents' house to be closer to Colt, and spent almost all his free time with his son. The work became more of a routine for him than a calling, but he clung to it like an anchor so as not to drown in his own thoughts. Layla stayed with her friend Caitlin until she was able to rent a modest apartment in another part of the city. She quit her job with Silver Key Entertainment at the height of the scandal, returning to her salon. There were fewer clients' rumors about her relationship with Adam Glaser spread throughout Murfreesboro, and many condemned her behind her back. But she held on, finding solace in her work and meetings with Colt. Her heart was torn with guilt, but she understood that there was no turning back. The Adam Glaser case, despite Logan's best efforts, gradually died down. Glaser's lawyers turned out to be masters of their craft. They challenged evidence, pointed out procedural violations, and witnesses either disappeared or changed their testimony. As a result, accusations of illegal activities were never fully proven. Adam got away with fines and a suspended sentence for violating tax laws, keeping most of his business. He left Tennessee for another state and never saw Layla or Logan again. His departure left a bitter taste of injustice, but life, as often happens, did not give anyone a clear ending. Logan and Layla attempted to go to family mediation as promised in the agreement. Several meetings with a psychologist resulted in painful arguments. Logan accused her of betrayal. Layla asked for forgiveness, but could not explain what pushed her to betray her. A psychologist, an elderly woman with a tired look, once said, "You both want peace, but you can't let go of the pain. Maybe you should accept that love is over and move on." These words became a turning point. After another argument during the session, Logan stood up and said, "That's enough. I am filing for divorce." Layla didn't object anymore. She just nodded, lowered her eyes, and whispered, "Fine." The divorce was finalized quietly, without unnecessary drama. The lawyers settled the formalities. Logan kept the house, but he sold it, not wanting to live in a place full of memories, and put the money into a bill for Colt. Layla renounced her claims to the property, asking only for the right to regular communication with her son. They agreed to joint custody, splitting time with Colt equally. Their main rule was, do not take your grievances out on the child. "We are divorced, but he should not suffer because of us," Logan said at the last meeting with the lawyers. "I agree," Layla answered quietly. And they kept their word. Colt grew up moving from one parent to another, and although he sometimes asked why mom and dad didn't live together, both tried to answer gently and without accusations. Logan said, "Sometimes adults can't live under the same roof, but we both love you." Layla added, "We will always be your mom and dad." Over time, their communication became formal but calm. They met at school meetings, holidays, and exchanged short phrases about their son's health or his successes. Logan no longer looked at her with hatred, and Layla stopped looking for forgiveness in his eyes. They learned to exist in parallel, like two people whose paths diverged but are connected by one thread: their child. One sunny day in September, Colt was celebrating his 7th birthday. Logan and Layla gathered in the park, where they organized a small picnic. Logan's parents, Sandra and Joseph, also arrived, bringing cake and gifts. Colt was running around with his friends, laughing, and the adults were sitting at the table, watching him. "He's growing up to be such a good boy," Sandra said quietly, looking at her grandson. "Yes," Logan nodded, sipping coffee from a paper cup. "We tried our best," Layla added, smiling at him without tension for the first time in a long time. Logan looked at her, and there was no anger or pain in his gaze, only tired acceptance. "We tried," he agreed. They fell silent, but the silence was not heavy, but somehow reconciling. Children were noisy around, birds were singing, and a light breeze was rustling the leaves. Colt ran up to the table, covered in chocolate from the cake, and shouted, "Mom, Dad, come play with me." Logan and Layla looked at each other. "Let's go," he said, getting up. "Of course," she said, following him up. They took their son by the hands, and the three of them ran to the site, where Colt rushed to the carousel with a squeal. Sandra and Joseph looked at them with a smile, and at that moment it seemed that, despite the divorce, betrayal, and unfulfilled hopes, this little family still retained something important. Life did not give them a fairy tale ending. Adam Glacier escaped punishment, disappearing into the shadows of his empire. Logan never got full justice, and Layla was left with a burden of guilt that may never go away. But in this imperfect world, they found a way to raise their son together without letting their wounds poison his childhood. And perhaps this was their greatest achievement. The sun was setting below the horizon, painting the sky in warm colors. Colt laughed as he sat on the carousel, while Logan and Layla stood at a distance, each in their own thoughts. They did not reconcile, did not return their love, but they learned to be parents in a normal relationship for his sake, for the sake of their boy. And this was their quiet, unnoticeable feat. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think, click to the next one.